Hello there, welcome back to Ukrainian Media Podcast. I'm Olena Solodovnikova and I'm excited to be joined by Hungarian journalist Péter Magyari. Hello, Peter.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Peter, of course, I just wanted to talk first of all about the election in Hungary, and the Orban's party lost the elections, and it lost was also the loss of the right-wing populists, as I think so. How do you explain this fact?
First of all, Orban ruled the country for too long. It was a very long time, 16 years. And many people just get bored. For example, my daughter, who is 18 in this year, not able to remember anyone else. But the most important part is not just the boring. The most important part is the way he ruled the country was more and more authoritarian by year. He pressed harder and harder on different levels of society, the universities, the healthcare system, also the police, and and so many people just couldn't believe there could be anyone to beat him. But but many people felt oppressed. There was a big problem with the system that he was very good to fight against opposition party as they made them argue against each other. He always had a leftist opposition, a radical right opposition who didn't talk to each other. They hated each other much more as they hated Orban, and he could divide and rule. It was a very important part of the way he could win elections, even if he didn't get so much vote. For example, in 2014, he got about as many votes as now, and then he could make a two-third majority in the parliament.
Mhm.
So because the opposition was so divided that so many little parties were involved in the elections. But now we had one brand new party which was able to connect the leftist and the rightist voters. It's a centrist party. And and also there was huge economic problems in Hungary in the last years. In 2010, it was a good time for the economy, and it made Orban's power solid. People didn't care about the corruption because they also could step one forward. But in the last 6 years, problems just grew bigger and bigger, but still the corruption became uh, large scale. People have seen that Orban's circle became richer and richer, and they became poorer and poorer. And
But
in the end
could
of the sorry,
sorry, just wanted to clarify that Hungary is the most corrupt country in the EU according to the Transparency International information officially. Could you elaborate a little bit how they use it, this corruption, is it nepotism or something like that, how it works in Hungary? Because sometimes and most time Ukrainians are accused on corruption too, that Ukraine is corruption very big, but we think not always. But do you agree that Hungary is corrupted?
uh, I think yes. It's uh, it's not, as far as I know, not enough, but something about Ukraine. I think in Ukraine it was used to, there were some oligarchs, some very strong people who were able to influence the politics and the government. In Hungary, in Orban's system, is different. In Hungary, there's no real oligarchs, no very strong people. Everyone who became very rich is part of the Orban circle. So the politics was able to choose their own powerful businessman. Because Orban made a state where the government is very strong related to economic affairs. They could choose who could be a winner in the economic life and who could be a loser. How they pushed the EU funds, how they pushed the procurements, and they just didn't let anyone else become strong who is not from their circle. So it was a state capture.
Mm-hmm. And also about the election campaign, Orban built his election campaign almost exactly on hatred of Ukrainians. And his political strategies created a parallel reality for voters, which Hungary was supposedly under the threat of invasion from Ukraine. For us, it's like a joke, but he used it. Why didn't Hungarians buy it?
Thank you for asking it because that was the last thing I wanted to say. That the end of the campaign became absolutely terrible for Orban. And that is one of the reasons. You know, at the night when he failed, 10,000s of people were out in the streets and they were screaming, Russians go home. And that was the slogan in the 55 revolution. And Orban just didn't recognize that the Hungarian population is not pro-Russians. He just wanted to make a policy, I think, because of his personal economic reason, for his personal political fights in Brussels and somewhere else in the world stage, that we need Russian energy because it's cheap and the real danger for Hungary is not from Russia, but from Ukraine, because Ukraine wants to have too much money from the EU funds. We won't, there will be no left enough for ourselves, and we shouldn't be against the Russians because we need their energy. Which was, first of all, was not reasonable. But on the other hand, it was not related to the main feelings of the Hungarian public. I think Orban thought everyone is interested in just about money, and if he repeats it enough, people will believe. Some people still believed, so I wouldn't say he got 2.3 million votes still. So but but I think most of the people, and first of all, the young people, are not buying it at all.
But Russian political technologists were working with Orban, of course. Why did they fail not deceive to the Hungarians? Because young people of Hungary have another mind thinking. What they political technologists from Russia didn't understand about Hungarian mentality?
It's a good question because I never made any conversations with any of them. Even we have no clear evidence that they were here. I think they were here, so just they were stayed in the shadow. I think they didn't get the notion that the Hungarian public just don't believe to Orban as much as they thought. They thought they can sell anything by Orban because Orban could sell almost anything for a long, long time in Hungary. But that kind of magic just disappeared in the last few years, I think. And on the other hand, in 2022, we had an election just a few weeks after the full-scale invasion against Ukraine happened. And that time, many people in Hungary was really, really afraid. the war is too close. We have so bad memories with Russians, with wars involved Russia. And Orban could make them believe he is able to protect them because he has a personal connection to Putin, because he is a strong man, and so on. And he wanted to repeat this situation in this campaign. But it's 4 years later, and people able to see we are not in a danger like many people thought we were 4 years ago.
Yes, great. So people don't so stupid like some politicians think. Uh, to the end of talking about Orban, I just wanted to clarify situation with GD Vance support. How did GD Vance support affect the outcome of elections?
I think it's not. It didn't count too much.
Mhm.
I think most of the Hungarian voters do not really know who is he. Mr. Trump would be known better, but I don't think it was really important. It was important for Orban to show that he is not a puppet of the Russians, because he has equal good connections towards Washington and Moscow, and he could articulate, "Oh, I couldn't be a Russian puppet because here's my friend from Washington D.C." But I think it was too late, so many of the voters just didn't buy this story,
Mhm.
even because we had the recording. We had the phone recording how he spoke with Putin. It just leaked to public a few days before the election. And I think many people recognized how Orban speaks with Putin. And it's very different what people used to. Orban always wanted to sell that he is a strong man, he is strong with everyone, he is a leader, even if he speaks to the German chancellor or French president and so on. And then we could recognize that he said to Putin, "You are the lion and I'm the mouse." How comes this? I think it was much more stronger than Vance's visit.
Okay, so let's jump to the new leader of Hungary. Could you tell us more about the Tisza Party, which
Yes,
won the
yeah.
election? Uh, could you talk a little bit more about the background of this political party?
Yes, it's a brand new party. It was established on the spring of 2024, just before the European election. The leader of the party is a very interesting and important person, Mr. Magyar, Péter Magyar, who will be the new prime minister. He was related to the Fidesz party. He was even a member of the party, and his ex-wife was one of the ministers of the Orbán government. And for a short time, he also worked as a Hungarian diplomat in Brussels for the Orbán government. And in the February of 2024, he just gave an interview to a popular Hungarian channel, and he said he is fed up. He was in the inner circle of the Fidesz government people, but he recognized the corruption, the problems, and so on, and he is not able to stay calm and silent anymore. And he said similar things that only opposition politics were talking about before. And it was a shock for the country. In just 12 hours, more than 1 million people watched the interview on YouTube. and he became a rising star very, very quick. He just organized the demonstrations a few days later, and his movement became a new party very quick. And as someone who is coming from the Fidesz party, but speaking like a leftist opposition leader, he could melt together different kind of voters very quick. And because some people who voted to Fidesz before felt, oh, he's like the old Fidesz without the corruption. And the leftist people thought, oh, with our own parties, we never was able to win. Let's take a chance with someone who knows better the Orban system and so on. And even for that time, the old opposition parties had huge problems. They lost too many times. They had two huge internal fights. People just didn't believe them, and it was a political vacuum when Mr. Magyar arrived. And he grew up very quick, his movement. He just visited little towns, big towns, villages. He visited more than 700 municipalities in a very short time. Sometimes he made 7 rallies a day,
Oh,
and it was paid well. And he had a very good Facebook page. He is a very good speaker, and he became a rising star very, very quick.
but do you have some information by whom it was paid? By his campaign was paid by himself or what? Because
Uh, he he collected money from the people.
ah,
As far as I know, about 50,000 people paid monthly
uh-huh.
grants to the party. And there were some other donations. They always collected on different ways. You could buy party card, for example. They sold different merch, but I think he made money first of all from the people, and also in the end of the campaign, he got help from some businesses that they gave him a stage and other material things for free.
Yes, I have some information that Peter Magyar, he was into the family of lawyers, and his father well-known attorney, and his mother served as a deputy chief justice of Hungarian Supreme Court, and his grand uncle even served as a president of Hungary in
Yeah.
2000s. So I want to ask, what will the new leader of Hungary focus on first of legislative work, international perspective, or other things? What is your opinion?
I think his most important job is to get the EU funds that are frozen because of the rule of law problems.
Uh-huh.
As far as I know, that is the most important issue, as the Hungarian budget has serious problems for this year, and he is not able to fail in the first year. So he just really needs these funds. And just yesterday, he spoke with Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, and they just agreed to settle down this issue. He also said something related to Ukraine. I think it was very important on Monday that Orban has vetoed the loan to Ukraine, that 90 billion euro loan. And Mr. Magyar was asked whether he will keep the veto. And he said he thinks there couldn't be any veto because it's illegal by EU law. Because Orban in December just agreed to make possible the loan, and he changed his mind. But to change your mind is not in line with EU law. So Mr. Magyar said there's no real veto because this veto was illegal. So he keeps the official December agreement, which said Ukraine should get the loan. I think it was also very important.
Yes, I think so. And also, Peter Magyar has said that Hungary will continue to buy Russian oil, but at the same time, it will seek to diversify its energy purchase. I have a quote: Russian will be there, Hungary will be there, so we will try to diversify supplies. This doesn't mean that we want to completely abandon cooperation. How could you comment this quote?
Yes, I think Magyar wants to be very pragmatic, uh, and I think he, first of all, he doesn't want to begin his government with a huge shock, and if new government is not prepared, for example, that Russians are halting the gas consumption for one day to the next, he wouldn't be able to to replace the Russian gas. I think in 6 months they would be able to, but not
Mhm.
from one day to the other. And I think he didn't want to risk very open confrontation even with Russia. Uh, and on the other hand, Fidesz in the campaign said to the people that if Tisza would win, there would be terrible problems. You won't have any energy and you will have to pay an extremely big amount money for the energy. And I think Magyar is not able to let that people think Fidesz had right. So I think he's buying time, but it's just my opinion.
But what countries could be another suppliers of gas to Hungary in 6 months?
Would say it wouldn't be countries, but it would be companies.
Uh-huh.
In the normal Western world, the energy companies are not state-owned companies, and even if the state is stakeholder, like in French or in Italy, there's a minority state ownership. These are not political decisions. Who do you buy and who do you sell? This is only in Russia matters. And I think there are enough LNG terminals and enough pipelines inside Europe to be able to buy anywhere from any companies. Like I would say the Czech Republic or Austria are gave up the Russian gas. They also has no seaside, no ports, but they're still able to get LNG from the European pipelines. And Hungary is very well connected to this system. So we could buy from Greek LNG ports through Bulgaria and Romania. Hungary could buy from Poland through Slovakia, from many parts, even from Germany or Netherlands through Germany. So it's possible. Just
But yeah,
okay, I recognize yes.
but previously, of course, the arguments buying gas from Russia was it's cheap. It was cheap, and so that's why we buy it. Is it a myth?
Uh, some part of the Russian gas is cheap for some special companies. On But the big picture is not that. There's a big long-term contract between the Gazprom the Russian state-owned company, and MVM, which is a Hungarian state-owned company, which gives heating to the Hungarian households. And in their contract, the price is connected to the TTF. TTF is the Dutch gas stock exchange. So it's about the same price for the gas as they would buy it from anywhere from any other parts for Europe. It's not cheaper. It's not true. But on the other hand, it's true that since the war escalated, the Russians are not able to sell their gas. So after, on the top of this contract, they give discounts for spot market for different companies who would buy from them from the territory of Serbia. And, and yes, it's cheap and it's a good business. But this business was open mostly for Orban's friend or Putin's friends. So it wasn't an open market that any kind of commodity trader could go there and say, okay, I need this discount. And it didn't really help for the Hungarian people to get cheap gas. It was a good business for some companies. And I would have to say that even some of these companies just resold that gas to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other hand, the story is ended in this March because the new EU decision called Repower EU law made impossible to make a spot market deal with Russian gas from 18th of March this year. So that business model is closed.
So, could I clarify? So, some companies from Hungary resold gas from Russia to Ukraine, yeah? Are you right?
I uh, I couldn't prove it because I couldn't show you contracts, but I hear this from people related to the industry.
Yes, it's very pity. I just think, yes.
So to tell the truth, they it's like who is buying this gas, the Russian gas, they sell it in the Hungarian gas stock exchange.
Mm-hmm,
So no one really knows what kind of gas is it.
mm-hmm,
But if you see the volumes, what kind of gas arrives to Hungary and how many gas going out from the country towards Ukraine, then you must mathematically see that it has to be the same gas.
yes, interesting. So, let's talk a little bit about your politics in Hungary. Magyar also stated that he would shut down the state-run media and draft media reforms resigned to ensure press freedom in the country. What do you think about this? How it will work? I can't imagine that one day all government media in Hungary stop working and renew in a month or 2 months.
It wouldn't stop working at all. It would just stop giving news
Ah,
programs. So maybe we would be able to see films or any other kind of entertainment for a short period. So I think the newsroom will be shut down and they will organize, we hope, a much balanced new uh, uh, news uh, newsroom for the state-owned media. And on the other hand, I think so. Orban government pushed very hard. They had even a TV channel where you could see only news, nothing else. I think it will be changed. I think there will be more entertainment and less news. I hope.
Okay, but previously that government media was absolutely like a hand of Orban and his friends, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was absolutely politically leaded organization. Yes.
It reminds me some kind of media in Lukashenko country, Belarus. I headlined it Lukashenko because I respected all Belarusians in exile and all Belarusians, people who clash with Lukashenko inside. But yes, and how do you estimate the level of authoritarianism? Orban and Lukashenko, if we compare these two leaders, is it the same level or not?
Uh, Not. I don't think so. They are in the same level. Uh, I think Lukashenko couldn't beat on elections, and we could beat Orban on elections. So
He was, but
it-
he we have no results after that after 5 years of
yeah.
it.
So Hungary was not. Uh, so it never happened during Orban's rule that the police would attack the crowd outside the street.
Okay, yeah,
Never, ever.
important.
I think that was an important red line. Uh, Also, there are no real political prisoners. There are some people who in jail because of, for example, economic fraud and all, and they were chosen maybe because of their political behavior also. And some people didn't, uh, some people was not punished, but they did the same thing, just they were closer to the government. So I wouldn't say the Hungarian justice was absolutely fair and not biased by political way, but politicians was not jailed because of their opinion. And also, Orban made a terrible media landscape, but mostly it was because his circle bought up the independent media. But if someone was able to do a new business, a new outlet, it was mostly free. So you could tell anything on Orban in the Hungarian media if you had the money to make a publication.
Okay, yes, it's the main differences, of course. I just wanted to ask you about that. Magyar's campaign was built around the image of Saul Sevilla, which makes his charismatic, but also raises questions. Do you think whether Hungary will once again have a charismatic leader like Orban, he was charismatic, who practices populism, and how prevent it?
On one hand, yes, Mr. Magyar is very charismatic, but I think in a in a media landscape where it's very easy to connect with people without the media, with the social media and so on. Usually, charismatic people gets the power, even in democracies. Uh, but it doesn't mean that he has to be authoritative. So Magyar promised very clearly he wants to restore the democratic institution, the breaks and balances will be respected, and he would make an amendment to the constitution that no one can be a prime minister for more than 8 years. And he promised he will step down if he would re-elected again. So what he says shows he won't be some kind of despot. In the end, we will see. Of
Yeah,
course,
in
we
5 years.
yeah, we couldn't be sure. Uh, but, but there's no sign yet that he would be something like this. He promised on the eve when he won that he won't make a Fidesz 2.0 and he wouldn't make a Fidesz light. That's what he said.
Yes, actually, Hungary chose European way, and that is great. But what about the construction of railway in Hungary funded by China? But as I think, is it a way to reduce dependence on the EU? Or is it will be like a balance between EU, China, and other actors?
I think no one knows yet what policy EU decides toward China, because as the United States became very tough on Europe with the tariff, with the NATO problems, with not helping enough related to Ukraine, and the European countries had to make double their effort. And Mr. Trump is too close to Russia. That time, the European leaders began to thinking about maybe we should find a way to work together with China because we are not able to lose two markets same time when the Trump's tariff problem came in. And I think this story is not decided yet. So uh, I I don't think that China has a huge role in Hungary. Orban liked to show up together with the Chinese leaders, and he helped for some Chinese companies to open new factories in Hungary. But I think right now, in the last year, both parties, both the Chinese and both the European, are just waiting and waiting what will happen in the United States and not doing any important steps.